40s cartoons are the greatest. What the guys did in the 40s, nobody alive today can do. In terms of skill, in terms of art, in terms of character acting.
When Ren and Stimpy rocketed into the TV universe, they were an instant hit.
Our Kirk Douglas, there he is. He's the most manly actor that ever lived. There he is. And the other inspiration is my dad. And that's him. And he's the most manly dad. And he was kind of mad that he had a wimpy cartoonist for a kid.
December 29th, 1989. Since John was fired from Bakshi Studios after Mighty Mouse failed, he's now working with another talented animator, Len Naylor. They originally met when John was in Sheridan, and eventually went on a crime spree together that, like the Grinch, grew their hearts 2 sizes bigger, causing them to fall in love. However, it's important to note that my writings are based on John's tellings of the events, as in a later interview, Len would recount the events by saying, quote, "He just blasted Claire de Lune while rolling around in a hog tub full of apples and trying to see if he could stretch his tongue through the fabric of the underwear he had on his face. Spoiler alert, he couldn't." In 1989, John Kay, Len Naylor, Bob Camp, and Jim Smith became dissatisfied with the state of animation and the companies that made them. With John's leadership, the crew created their very own animation studio, Spumco. The name for Spumco came after John had heard the word spum, which meant quality in Danish. But after the passing of his late hero Walt Disney, he would have various mental delusions and padded rooms involving a man, who doesn't exist in real life, named Raymond Spum. You see, in John's delusions of this Raymond Spum character, he would have horrifying hallucinations of his back being slathered down with hot candle wax and ice, all while this Raymond Spum continues to speak nonsense about being the, quote, godfather of animation. Not too long after the creation of Spumco, Nickelodeon released a statement saying they were looking for, quote, creator-driven cartoons. John and his team were ecstatic upon hearing this, although also somewhat skeptical, as it had been years since an animation network had asked for cartoonists to create. However, in the industry at this time, the Spumco team didn't seem to have many better alternatives. So, a few months after the creation of the company, John would pitch some cartoon ideas to Nickelodeon. 2 major pitches in this lineup were Jimmy the Idiot Boy and Your Gang. Jimmy the Idiot Boy was about the struggles of a transgender deaf woman trying to navigate the harsh reality of 1940s grueling America. And Your Gang, a show about various acid-induced characters that lived in real-life settings. The executives at Nick were spellbound at John's performance, likening it to a madman in an asylum having his testicles poked, prodded, and electrocuted in a dark cell. He'd gnash his teeth and scratch his chin with his foot like a dog, screaming nonsense about microorganisms that had infiltrated their way into his brain through his ear. As enthralling as the pitch was, the executives still weren't too interested in the shows John had pitched, finding them to be either too weird or too edgy for children to watch. One executive, however, Vanessa Kofi, took an interest in 2 small side characters from the Your Gang pitch. A morbidly obese cat with a big bulbous nose, and a scrawny little chihuahua with mosquito-like features. These were the same cat and dog characters I mentioned in episode 1 when speaking on John's Sheridan College days, given the names Ren and Stimpy. Vanessa took a particular interest, finding their simple yet fun and expressive designs very different from anything she had ever seen before. It was at this point Vanessa decided she could look past John's K2-induced tyrannical rants about cartoons, just to bring these 2 characters to life. Not too long after this, Nickelodeon decided to give John a deal. Now, according to him, they sent him a contract offering to air one of his 2 pitches, Jimmy the Idiot Rocket Boy, and Ren and Stimpy. According to John, the contract basically said they would take ownership of his characters, car, house, all income, clothes, soul, brain, social security, and even had dictation over where he would end up in the afterlife. Now, what makes the Ren and Stimpy story so interesting is a lot of people from all different sides of the spectrum lived it and have all given very different recountings of their events. What makes John's recountings of this instance so interesting is the fact that Vanessa Kofi seems to remember it in a very different way. According to her, Ren and Stimpy weren't even one of the pitches John had given the network. They were two properties that Vanessa had picked out of John's Your Gang pitch. Now, who you want to believe is completely up to you. A lot of this story is up to interpretation. However, I will say I'm more inclined to believe Vanessa over a man who likely throws his own shit like an ape. The network was being a big bunch of pussies. Were scared of airing the show as they thought it to be too mature for kids. But John, being the derangedly determined man he is, got on his knees and began begging Vanessa like it was Ram Ranch. He told her that while the concepts may seem weird, it would surely be a good investment, as they would finally be giving kids what they want in cartoons. The network and she were reluctant, but after further convincing, they were sold, greenlighting the show and opening the door to one of the most insane and influential cartoons ever made.